Hello, everyone. Welcome to our latest Linton cast. Today we have Casey Linehan, who is a customer success manager. Say hello, Casey.
Hi, everyone.
And today, Casey is going to be talking about lead scoring. Casey is quite the expert on lead scoring, advanced strategies in lead scoring, and lead scoring implementation. So, first question I have for you is, why lead scoring? Why should people think about using the lead scoring functionality in their HubSpot portal?
Yeah. The first piece really is that running a sales org is really expensive. Selling just as a whole is a very expensive proposition. And we also know separately that timeliness really is critical for sales
100%.
teams.
Yeah.
So the more that you can do to position your sales people to be able to reach out with the most valuable and the best fit leads possible before anyone else, the better off that you'll be and the more efficiently that your department can run. And lead scoring is a really simple and effective way, if it's implemented correctly, to position your team to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think there's some data that says if you contact a person within the first 15 minutes of them converting on a form or something like that, that the chances of closing that sale exponentially increase, or some statistic along those lines. So relative to lead scoring, what would you say if somebody's interested, an organization is interested in getting started with lead scoring, what would you say is the best way to get started, kind of fast ramp up, useful ramp up, immediate impact? What would your recommendation be?
Yeah, so the first place to start with that is really to do your research on your buyers and on your selling process. And that means sitting down with your sales team and then any other team that's really going to be involved in the development or the usage or the ongoing maintenance of that score to make sure that you really have a very deep and well shared understanding of who your buyers are and exactly how you're able to determine good fits and poor fits. If you have that understanding in place and everybody's on the same page about that and about what you're actually going to use the lead scoring for, then it's a relatively quick process from there to start building out a model.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And in terms of the errors that you commonly see, what are there, or is there one big one? Are there a few? What do you run into that you wish you could warn people about before they start this implementation process?
Yeah. So the first piece is always to start with that research and the collaboration. If you don't have that piece in place, then it's not going to be a valuable tool and it's not going to be a tool that you're able to maintain effectively over time. So you really have to start there, make sure that everybody's on the same page. The second piece is lead scoring really works well as something that improves the efficiency of your sales and marketing teams in your funnel, but it's not really the foundational piece. So you want to make sure that everything else is working efficiently at the start. So is your sales team getting enough leads or are they getting too many leads? And you want to make sure that you've already addressed all of those pieces so that the sales team is getting enough leads each day to keep them busy for the full day. And the lead scoring is really able to just focus in on helping them prioritize that outreach of those leads in that day. And it helps to keep the model a little bit simpler. It helps to give a little bit more trust in the model on the sales side. And one other piece that's important to think about here is if you develop a model that you're just adding points to it, and you're not really putting a cap on how high it can go, it makes it really hard to understand what a given score actually means. A 45 one day out of 100 is pretty clear, but if the next day you add another 50 possible points and now it's a 45 out of 150, it's a lot harder to know if that score means that somebody's actually a really good fit and should be prioritized or not.
That's a great point. So don't change the definition of the number, essentially.
Yeah.
Great. What about if somebody feels like the lead scoring implementation is working well, they're handing over leads, they're prioritizing leads for sales well. What would you say, like, hey, what's the next step? Like, what's the next level play for lead scoring?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things you could do to add more sophistication to sort of a core score that you're using. That would be things like adding time-bound engagement criteria. So not just did somebody fill out a form at some point in time, but have they filled out a form in the last 2 weeks? And you can add those in as two separate criteria. So maybe +5 for a form submission, and then you get another +5 points if that form submission was within the last week or 2 weeks or whatever time frame makes the most sense. So that you have that extra value or that extra indicator for the more recently engaged leads that's separating them out from folks that may be engaged a little bit further back. And you can do the same thing too with the number of engagements and start to add in. It's 1 point if you filled out one form. It's 2 points if you filled out 2 forms. It's 3+ points if you filled out more than 3 forms. So that's a nice way to continue to update and iterate on your core model. But you can also look towards creating multiple lead scores depending on the circumstances. So is the model that you developed really effective for net new customers and prospects? And is that going to match somebody that's coming through a cross-sell or an upsell motion? Would it make more sense to develop another lead score for that kind of circumstance that your sales team can use for that funnel, which is ostensibly kind of a different funnel and sales motion? So you can start to think about creating additional scores based on different circumstances.
That's great. That's great. And a little bit of a tactical question here. Do you see, how have you seen it work? Do you see where sales folks would create a filter on a particular lead score? Do you see workflow triggers being set up for notifications on lead scores? Is there a pro or con to either of those approaches?
I don't think that there's a con to any of those as long as you're not creating too much noise. At the end of the day, the lead score should help you prioritize. If you have 10 leads a day or in a given time frame that you're trying to reach out to, the lead score shouldn't be determining which of those leads are going to be the 10. They should help give you an order, and you should still reach out to all of them just in whatever order. So just filtering your lead, your contact view by lead score from high to low is a really helpful way to use it. But you can do other things like create in-app notifications if somebody's at a particularly high lead score, or you can use that high lead score as a trigger for a slightly different, more hands-on approach. So you could potentially send a different automated email that looks like it's coming from the salesperson and has their meeting link in it that pushes for a slightly more kind of white glove sales experience. So
Yeah,
there's a lot that you can do with that.
Yeah, concierge level treatment for the
Yeah.
score that's 90 or above or something like that.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Casey. This has been really helpful and really insightful. And we hope that you can come back and talk some more about lead scoring, but very, very insightful information. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.